Hey everybody, this is Evie again, and today I'm joined by Charles Ogar. Thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Yes, thank you for having me here.
I always say before I start the interview is that I don't have an opinion on the whole topic yet. Like I'm kind of new to the scene, and mostly I think I'm confused. That's
Yeah,
why I started
which
this
is
project.
understandable.
Yes, so that's why I started this project to kind of try to learn more because I
Hmm.
don't know that much. And so my goal is to speak with as many instructors and different ones that have different opinions,
Hmm.
both like on the urban kids side and the Kizomba side, and really, really kind of like understand them thoroughly. I don't um, agree with you. I don't disagree with you at this point. I do know that you have an opinion and I respect it. So does that make sense?
Just gonna say, when I first started dancing kizomba, I was confused, and it was really fucking confusing at the beginning. Like I just wanted to like get other people's perspectives and opinions and histories and experiences. Um, and you have to seek out the information from multiple people, yeah, who may have contradictory information. So yeah, like I'm searching, I'm still searching, I'm still learning. I'm still doing my podcast, I'm still asking questions, and it's like the more you find out, then the more questions you have. So then sometimes you question yourself, like, am I becoming more knowledgeable on this subject, or am I just realizing how much it is that I don't know? And I think when you take a look at the scope of it all, like from everything, like it's really a vast, deep subject. Yeah. So like
Yes.
for one person to stand and shout and scream like I have the key, I have the missing link, I know everything. I don't think that's realistic, yeah, because the more you ask questions, the more you put your ego to the side and realize and respect another person's history and experiences and what they have to say, you just realize this is a really complex thing. Let's just seek out information and try to put the pieces of the puzzle together to kind of make sense of all of this, yeah?
So Charles, my first question would be, how do you define urban kids? I know that you call it neo kids, but for the sake of this discussion, we're just gonna call it urban kids. For you, is it a separate dance or is it just a different style of kizomba?
For sure. So before I answer the Urban Kids question, I should clarify Neo Kids, since I'm associated with that, and it does get a little bit confusing. Um, I started Neo Kids as a kind of like a personal brand. So, and I do specialize. I mostly teach urban kids, but I teach urban kids with the Kizuma Foundation. We'll get more into that, I'm pretty sure, in the interview. But when I started teaching, and I remember I was going to some festivals, and it's like Kizomba with Charles, and then it was like Kizomba with a more traditional Angolan style,
Uh-huh.
authentic, all due respect, another style of Kizomba. Yeah, so they would come to my class and see one style of music, and they would see another class with another style and another style of music, and they're like, "Well, what do you call your style?" Yeah, the students would ask me. And so I felt compelled to like give it a name. I am not the grandmaster poobah of urban kids or neo kids or new style or anything like that. I just kind of like do what I can for I put my best foot forward each time that I teach. Yeah. And so Neo Kids is basically now like urban kids associated with me. If you see Neo Kids, I'm affiliated with it somehow in
Hmm.
some way, hence the Neo Kizoma Festival, and things like that. So I don't try to distinguish Neo Kids from Urban Kids because it's just going to get more confusing. I have my personal style when I dance. My personal style 4 years ago and to now has also evolved, and everybody else's dance style is also evolving. Yeah, so we have 1,000 dancers dancing urban kids. Everybody doesn't have to have a name, but
Hmm.
since I'm running a business, this is my full-time thing. I feel it's important to kind of give yourself a personal touch, a personal brand, something to identify yourself as. Like if you open up a restaurant that serves Mexican food, it could be Don Jose's Mexican food. It could be Doña Maria's fast food. It
Hmm.
could be I Love Tacos Mexican restaurant. Yeah, but that gets into like business and entrepreneurship and sales and marketing, which I'm also super passionate about, and we can talk about that if you like. But
So
yes,
this is
that's
your label, Neo
it's
Kids, Mr. Neo
yes.
Kids, right?
People call me that, and the name kind of stuck. So if you want to follow me on Instagram at Mr. Neil Kiz. You can do that.
Okay.
But back to the interview. To answer your question about the Urban Kids, I don't feel like it's a separate dance. I
Hmm.
feel like it's a different style, yeah. And one of the main reasons for that is because they are compatible. They're cross compatible. Yes, there are differences. Yes, but there are also a lot of similarities, yeah. And I guess it depends on what kind of glasses you want to put on in the situation. Do you want to focus on the differences or do you want to focus on the similarities? Yeah.
Hmm.
Now, if I'm going to a Kizomba social and I'm trying to dance salsa to with a Kizomba dancer, that is a different dance. If I go and I try to dance Lindy Hop with a Kizomba dancer, that's not going to work. Yeah. If I
Hmm.
go and I try to dance tango with a Kizomba dancer, there's a little bit of overlap there. And if I'm dancing urban kids and I've danced with many traditional dancers. Um, yeah, it's compatible. Yeah. You have to have the base, and Urban Kids wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Semba. And it was really interesting because in my festival last year, JoJo was teaching a move in class, and it's like, hey, I saw this move in Semba,
Yeah.
and I liked it, and that inspired me, and so I
Hmm.
urbanized it, and I made it into this move that fits to Urban Kids music. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think we really have to talk about the styles of music that we dance to. We can't talk about the styles of dance if we're not talking about the styles of music. Yeah, because I'm not going to dance urban to Gata Morena. I'm not going
Yes.
to dance urban when I'm dancing samba because that's not what it's called for in the music. Yeah, but if you put on Animal, LG Beats Killer, if you put on some Morella Soul remix or something like that, like my style of dance is going to change because the music has changed. Yeah, so the music, I feel like the music comes first and then the dance style comes after that. Yeah,
So
in
Charles,
my
you
opinion.
do you dance samba as well?
Yes, 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 yes. Simba's really fun. I was just in Edmonton. They were playing Simba here. I was dancing. I feel like it's really, really important to dance Simba and dance Afro House and dance Kizomba, dance Tarashinya. Like there's so many different flavors. Like if you are a Kizomba dancer and Kizomba as an umbrella term, yeah, like you go
Hmm.
to Kizomba social, you're gonna hear Tarashinya. You might hear compa. You might hear urban kids. You might hear like English remixes. You might hear so many different styles of music that is all more or less compatible. Yeah, and your style changes if you are aware of those differences in the sounds. Yeah, but as a newbie coming into the dance, maybe you don't hear all those different styles. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe you can't distinguish Tarasha from 2018 to like a DJ Paparazzi Tarashinya from 2012. Yeah,
Hmm.
so it's there's a lot of history, and it makes sense to be confused because there's a lot of history and there's a lot of opinions and people are opinionated and people are stating their opinions and getting passionate about it because we're also crossing the lines of culture as well. But yeah, it's important to dance at all, especially as an instructor, especially as an international instructor. I don't think you can reach international status and not know the base of Semba and Tarashinya and all these things. And I wouldn't have lasted this long. Like May
Hmm.
14th is going to be 4 years of me doing this full time,
Okay.
professionally, no other job, hustling and grinding, trying to get Kizomba going without knowing and doing your homework, you know?
Okay. So you know how for some reason the human brain works in a way that when you put an adjective to a noun,
Mm-hmm.
describing its differences,
Mm-hmm.
then for some reason we kind of want to put another adjective to like the
Mm-hmm.
original noun.
For
So
sure.
so if we say, I don't know why, but for some reason it's hard for us to say kizomba
Mm-hmm.
and neo kizomba, and then we
Mm-hmm.
start saying, okay, this is neo kizomba, and
Mm-hmm.
then it goes traditional,
Mm-hmm.
retro,
Mm-hmm.
authentic kizomba. Now,
Mm-hmm.
and in your neo kiz manifesto that you
Mm-hmm.
have on your website,
Mm-hmm.
um, a lot of times you use that's how you describe like the kizomba that is danced in Angola
For sure.
as traditional and retro. Can you kind of guess why Angolans don't like it when we call kizomba traditional retro?
Yes, I can understand because it's not necessarily, if you look it up, tradition in the dictionary, it's not really a tradition because it's still alive. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and we're just going to take a look at dances overall. Yeah. We can get caught up in the Kizoma bubble sometimes, but if we scope out and take a look at other dances,
Hmm.
it helps see what's going on. Yeah, we have classical music or dances. We have traditional. We have folkloric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have all these kind of dances to help us realize other dances. I'm not sure if you've heard of like folkloric Hungarian dance or folkloric Mexican dances.
Yeah.
Um, what makes a dance folkloric? I don't know the answer to that. Like what makes a style of music classical versus not classical. We have classical music that's like orchestra, but we
Mm-hmm.
could say, oh, this is classic R&B or this is classic rock. Like
Mm-hmm.
who gives that label? Like what makes it? You can't look it up in the dictionary and say, okay, this music will become classical when it's 20 years old or something like that. I don't know. Or you have classic cars. Like what makes a car classic versus not classic? Like so the labels we give things is not like this black and white system. Yeah. I don't know where the traditional adjective originated from, so I get it. But when you use the word traditional kizomba, everybody knows what you're talking about. Exactly, yeah. And traditional kizomba is very similar to like the traditional dance. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Semba is a traditional dance of Angola. So it resembles Semba-like dancing and movements, yeah. So I don't know, like we use the word retro. Like if I buy a pair of bell bottom pants that is similar to like the 70s, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the pants are new. Yeah, they were just manufactured last month, but they resemble a style from 40 years ago. Yeah, is that if my
That
math is correct?
Yes,
So,
that's something that I wanted to actually bring in as an example. If I go to a retro party,
hmm
and it's funny, like when I was 20, retro party would be like play music of the 80s. I'm sure now it's like the 90s. It's crazy.
exactly.
Yeah, so if I go to this party and they're playing like Madonna songs, like her early
hmm
hits, or Michael Jackson's early hits, or Prince, like
hmm
what does that make me? Old, right?
hmm
Like I used to listen to this music when I was like really young,
hmm
or that brings like back memories, but this music right now doesn't exist. And you're right when you said, if it's something traditional or retro, that means that it was around at a certain point in time, but it no longer exists. But Kizomba is alive, and even in
Most
your
definitely.
manifesto, you mentioned at one point that, oh, by the way, traditional retro Kizomba songs are still being produced, like this song called
hmm
Mel Samba, which was released in 2015.
hmm
But my point is, when you call something traditional or retro, it kind of becomes associated with something that's old. And right
hmm
now, people, they kind of want to be with anything that's new, that's
hmm
neo, that's
hmm
popular, trendy. And
hmm
so and so that like this way we're kind of giving it a negative connotation because
hmm
you, especially in like our society right now, you
For
need to
sure.
have the latest version of the iPhone, you need to
hmm
be using like the
Definitely.
latest technology. And another thing is, like, if you call it traditional, that means you're making it like smaller because now
hmm
it's like part of something.
hmm
And if we call it traditional, that makes people create this sort of like emotional association with these words. And that's why
hmm
sometimes I hear people say, oh, I don't dance traditional
hmm
kizomba. I dance urban, or
hmm
I dance neo. And I know that that person is basically telling me that he's better than me. Did you ever think about not calling it traditional, just saying
So it's
kizomba?
it's really interesting, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because I'll let's there's so many ideas floating in my brain right now. So,
Uh-huh.
um, I don't agree that traditional is the best adjective. Yes,
Yes.
but like that's why like in the Olympiads of Kizomba we're using authentic now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a better word. I don't know if we can get all the Pala people to agree that authentic is a better connotation because
Mm-hmm.
Kizomba we have to realize is an umbrella term. And then we also want it to be specific as well. Yeah. So it's like we're giving it a double meaning, which can be confusing unless we're communicating that, okay, no, this in this term, in this instance, in this context, I'm meaning Kizomba in an umbrella term because you go to a Kizomba party, you're not only going to hear kizomba, you're going to hear a wide variety of things, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Versus, no, this is a specific original style of kizomba, and that is that, and there can be no adjective placed to that, yeah? I also realized that 5 years from now, what we're dancing now might be called old school urban kizomba music. DJ Zykes, he just released a song a few weeks ago which was a remix of Jill Scott's song He Loves Me. That song is 17 years old.
Hmm.
That makes me feel old, yeah? I'm 33, so like that gives me nostalgia. So now I'm showing it to the new kids, dancing urban kids. Oh, do you know this song? Do you know who Jill Scott is? They don't know who Jill Scott is, yeah?
Hmm.
So it's really interesting, yeah? Like I don't know all the ins and outs. I know that time is going to continue to go. It's going to be really interesting to see what we're dancing in 5 years in the Kizomba world and what we're going to call today what this style is and what we're going to call the style from the like original Kizomba Semba. Yeah, like we're trying to label a moving target that is completely evolving, that it is traveling across national borders on a daily basis. I don't want to make it seem like it's not an important subject. I know that we're dealing with somebody's culture, and you don't mean traditional in a derogatory way. If that person is saying, "Oh, I don't dance traditional," then he probably needs to check himself because if he doesn't know the bass, then he's probably not going to be a good urban kids
Hmm.
dancer. Yeah, so he thinks he's a urban kids dancer, but if you don't have the bass, you don't have the flow, you can't dance other styles of music. He's entitled. He can choose what he wants to do, but he can't sit on his high horse and act like he's better than another person. Yeah, we talked about this retro party, that the things that people realize because they grew up with it. Yeah,
Yes.
the word that really triggers in my mind is nostalgia. Yeah, so for an Angolan person listening or a Haitian person listening to compa music or kizoma music or samba music that they listened to when they grew up, it brings up a strong feeling of nostalgia, yeah? And nostalgia is really a powerful emotion. And I can see that nostalgia in a Palak person, in a Haitian person, in a Dominican person listening to old school Dominican bachata, in a Cuban person listening to Celia Cruz, in a American person listening to old school Aerosmith. Like nostalgia is nostalgia. Like regardless of what it is, it's a powerful human emotion that we can all relate to. And if you see somebody become happy because of the good memories they had when they were growing up, you cannot hate on somebody's happiness. I respect it. Like, find what makes you happy and fucking be happy. Yeah. If it's traditional kizomba, authentic kizomba, do that, dance that. Yeah. But realize there's other forms of nostalgia out there. We have to respect that happiness because I feel it's something that we can all, instead of being depressed and isolated and lonely and like wanting to commit suicide, if you're not doing that and you're happy listening to whatever music you want to, do that shit. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, yes, and you mentioned and you mentioned that it's important to have your Kizomba foundation even if you're
Yes.
dancing urban, and that's actually perfect for leading up to my next question. So Charles, you lead with your body. Now I'm gonna like pause for a second. For me, it was a revelation kind of
Mm-hmm.
recently. I always thought that there were two ways a lead could lead,
Mm-hmm.
and it's either with their body
Mm-hmm.
and this while maintaining a connection. That's how they
With the
do it.
chest you're referring to,
Yes,
yes?
so
Mm-hmm.
like yes, both partners are actually touching.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they do in Kizomba.
For sure.
Or you have space in between,
Mm-hmm.
and you lead with your arms. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for me, like the discovery was that you actually can lead with a space in between and with an arm frame, but at the same time, you can still lead with your body
Mm-hmm.
from the chest,
Mm-hmm.
with your body intention.
Let's say, quote unquote, there's five styles of leading or abilities or ways to lead a move in Kizomba, yeah? And you are only aware of three. So you only dance those three because you're not aware of the other two. Like you said, it was a recent revelation, yeah? We're
Hmm.
always studying, we're always learning. So that is like omission by ignorance because you weren't aware of the other two styles that were there, yeah? Versus if you are well practiced and let's say you know everything and you know that those five exist, five styles or five ways of leading exist, and you choose only three. You're aware of the other two, but those don't fit what you like to do on the dance floor, so you only choose three. Now that is a personal preference of what you're doing, yeah?
Even when you have like an open
Mm-hmm.
frame, do you
Mm-hmm.
still think about leading with your body from the
Yes,
chest?
definitely. From the ground through your body, like the ground intention is super, super important. Whether I'm dancing Kizomba Semba or Urban Kids, having your ground connection and having that transmitted through your frame is really important. And I feel like an element as well that we use in Urban Kids is visual leading sometimes, yeah?
Hmm.
Where the follow can follow me and she's just using her eyes to see what my body is doing and she's able to follow me through saidas, through shuffle steps, through syncopations, through blocks. It's a higher level of call and response, but I still feel like it's very possible as well, yeah?
All the girls in the club in their best outfit, just showing that skin, trying to make it on the spit. Where you been, girl? You and your friend need to come to the back. We got it locked down. In your white t-shirt or a three-piece suit, don't matter what you wear. All that matters is who you with. Some jiggy, some straight grind. All up in the club just to have a good time. Hey, where the party at? Girls is on the way where the Bacardi at. Models and models talking all of that. No, I can't forget about my.
Apart from body leading, do you think that the proper weight transfer and the hip movement is also
Mhm.
important in Urban Kids?
It is super important, yeah? So I teach my follows and my leaders to be able to dance effortlessly, yeah? Like if you're putting unnecessary energy into your leading and following to shift your weight, then that's not the ideal situation, yeah?
Hmm.
I've had the pleasure of dancing with so many different women across the globe throughout my years of dancing Kizomba. And the best ones are the ones that feel like ghosts, yeah? Like you can't feel their weight transfers, yeah? Like their body movement is like water. It's so fluid and it moves very nicely. I love those dances, yeah? Versus dancing with the follow that's super stiff and has a lot of tension in her frame and in her arm, and she's not matching the music. That is not ideal for me, yeah?
So for the follows, do you also teach them proper hip movement? Because usually when I watch like urban
Hmm.
videos and I look at the girls,
Hmm.
the follows,
Hmm.
they either dance like with high heels on, and if they
Hmm.
don't have heels on, they're on their tippy toes, and
Hmm.
and their legs are almost straight, and sometimes like
Hmm.
straight. Now, if you're dancing kizomba, that's like a no-no. Like you,
Hmm. For sure.
for like it's not just like different. It's like opposite, right?
Hmm. For sure.
So, does that kind of mean that when you when you transfer from Kizomba to Urban Kiss, do the follows go through like a bigger change than the leads?
I feel both the lead and the follow definitely go through a change, yeah? So to help answer the technique of the dance, let's
Hmm.
talk about what makes Urban Kids Urban Kids. In my opinion, yeah? Again, disclaimer, I'm not every dancer. I don't know every Urban Kid style. I've learned from a few instructors. I'm a student as well, but I'm just going to share my experience, yeah? So when we start getting into Urban Kids, like I said, it's important to start with the music first, yeah, and then we start talking about the dance. So what makes Urban Kids music Urban Kids, yeah? What you see a lot of Urban Kids dancers start to do is touch steps, yeah, where their foot moves into a certain direction, but they don't transfer their weight,
Hmm.
yeah. When we're dancing Kizomba Zemba, like a step is a step. Like you go in that direction, you're going to step fully into that direction, is going to go into the next step, yeah.
Hmm.
And we have that touch step because we have a higher prevalence of syncopations, yeah. Like when we're dancing Kizomba Semba, I feel like one of the few instances of shuffle steps that we have is the shuffle step or the virgula. You could do a virgula into like a rapapa, or some people call it a cha-cha or a shuffle step. But you know what I'm talking about, yeah? Like a
Cha-cha,
syncopated step
yes. Uh-huh.
in a circular motion, yeah?
Hmm.
In Urban Kids, we have syncopations like this, like the circular shuffle steps, but we also have linear shuffle steps
Hmm.
that can go to the front or to the back or in a spin. Like we play with syncopations a lot more in Urban Kids in a lot of different creative ways. Since it requires a higher precision of weight transfer, it requires me to be a little bit more upright in my posture and in my frame because I cannot step heavy. Yeah, if I'm stepping heavy all the time in Urban Kids, I'm going to be huffing and puffing to like be able to react as fast as we do with all the different steps that we're doing. Yeah, in a very smooth way. Yeah, I feel like an Urban Kids dancer should not be like this strong, herky-jerky kind of way. I feel like you can dance urban kids.
Robotic, right?
Yeah, I feel like urban kids dancers that are robotic lack the foundation in Kizomba Simba.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, if I'm choosing to dance in a robotic way because I'm hitting something in the music that is robotic or electronic or techno, and I want to express myself robotic in that particular instance, that's different than dancing robotic to every single song that the DJ plays from the beginning of the social to the end of the social. That's a whole different situation. Yeah. So, the follows. I feel like, okay, they're more straight. I
Mm-hmm.
also feel like it's super important to, we talk about this weight transfer, to have your balance at all times. In my workshops, I tell the leaders you need to be the king of your balance. In my workshops, I tell the followers you need to be the queen of your balance. Like it's your responsibility at all times. Yeah. If you want to dance on your tippy toes and you don't have strong ankles or calves and core to keep yourself upright and keep your own balance, and you're hanging on me to keep your balance, that is not the ideal situation. And then the next question, as far as body movement, are you able to move your hips the same way with your heels off the ground versus your heels on the ground? Yeah. It takes practice doing that as well. Yeah. I've seen some videos with some follows who are dancing on their toes and they're still able to maintain some movement in their hips. It's definitely more of a challenge, I feel, because balance becomes an issue. And then I believe that the hips are also connected to the knees. So if my heels are off the ground, but my knees are moving and I'm able to get my hips to move, then that's also possible. Yeah. Have you seen like the traditional Tahiti dancers?
Tahiti, no.
Tahiti, Google it. Yeah, you're gonna see the follows or these ladies
Mm-hmm.
on their toes, but their hips are going like 1,000 miles a minute. Yeah, because they're isolating their knees and their hips and still get able to get a lot of hip movement, but they're not on their heels. But personally, I feel like if you're starting off as a newbie, it's definitely better to understand the movement with your hips connected to your knees, connected to your heels. I'm not a lady, so I don't have the most hands-on, first-hand experience on this. But I feel like it is possible to maintain a little bit of a hip flow while still being urban and being on your toes, if you will. Yeah, at least that's been my experience on the social dance floor.
Chegarina, esse teu jeitinho me fascina. Corpo de mulher, cara de menina. Do jeito que faz subir a adrenalina. Ela diz, famous. Aperta mais pouco que eu quero um rosto. Faz sentir o meu lado animal. Hoje eu quero me portar muito mal. Eu disse, sou avançado. É feita a baliza, não falha o golo. Isso entre nós, baby, vai dar molho. Só não vou lhe trincar nem arrancar olho. Ela disse, me arranha, me aperta, me beija. Me leva pra onde quer que seja. Me toca, me sinta, aproveita, abusa. Que eu quero dormir fora.
One of the things that I've also noticed that the hip
Mhm.
movement, if there is hip movement
Mhm.
shown by the ladies in the
Mhm.
urban kids movement, and
Mhm.
it looks a lot different than the hip
For
movement
sure.
from Kizomba, and some people have like noted that it's uh looks more sexy. All
Mhm.
right, so they're trying to sexualize the dance. Now I've had
Mhm.
a funny thing happen to me actually.
Mhm.
I was just last weekend,
Mhm.
not this weekend, but last weekend, I was in Montreal
Mhm.
at Jindungo Festival.
Mhm.
And once I got in there, my husband called me. So this is what happened. He has
Mhm.
two coworkers that are from
Mhm.
Nigeria.
Mhm.
Now, if a
My
person
dad is
is
Nigerian as well, so this is going to be interesting.
now, if you're from, there are a lot of Nigerians in Calgary.
Mhm.
And what I've learned is that, if a person is from Africa, that doesn't automatically uh, means that they know about Kizomba.
Definitely
And
not. Which
yes,
is a very interesting topic in itself, but continue.
yes. So I know we have Kenny. I'm sure you know Kenny. He won the
Mhm. I just saw him
Atlantic.
here in Edmonton. Mhm.
Yes, so he lives in Calgary. So he's from Nigeria, but
Mhm.
he knows Kizomba. But a lot of Nigerians, they have no idea about that dance, which is
Mhm.
which is fine. So these two coworkers that my husband has,
Mhm.
precisely that they didn't know about Kizomba. So one of them asked my husband, "So do you want to go snowboarding this weekend?" And he's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
I can't. Well, I'm babysitting. We have a 2-year-old."
Mhm.
I'm babysitting her because my wife is out of town. And so
Mhm.
they're like, oh, where is she? Oh, she's at this Kizomba festival in
Mhm.
Montreal. And so the guy, before you knew it, he turns back to his screen, goes to YouTube,
Mhm.
and he types in Kizomba.
Mhm.
So of course, what he saw was Sarah Lopez.
Mhm.
After those guys watched that video,
Mhm.
they looked at Ivan, my husband, and they were like, oh, so this is what your wife dances?
Mhm.
And she's out there by herself in Montreal, and you're like
Mhm.
right here babysitting. Of course, after that, I send them like real videos of
Mhm.
Kizomba, like
For
Mario
sure.
Jordao, and like I really like this video of a little boy dancing Kizomba
Mhm.
in
For
Angola.
sure.
But they didn't watch it. They formed a certain opinion about it. I don't necessarily think that when I dance Kizomba, I dance a sexy dance.
Mhm.
So how would you address this?
In North America, we are in a growth phase of
Hmm.
Kizomba. We are trying to spread the dance. We're trying to attract new dancers. We want people to come and dance and feel safe and feel respected and feel like they belong and they can come and have fun and continue to dance, and this will add value to their lives. Yes?
Hmm.
So on the other side of this, like there are females who are not attracted to the sexiness of Kizomba, but then also Sarah Lopez has maintained a Kizomba career for how many years now, and her classes are packed with women who want to learn to move like her,
Hmm.
but that doesn't define the dance, yeah? So, like I said, I feel like these interviews, the podcast that I do, the articles that others are writing across the world about Kizomba is really, really important to give people the right perception of what Kizomba is and what it isn't, yeah? So I feel like it's very unfortunate when a follow or a leader or somebody YouTubes Kizomba and they see a video, and there's worse videos out there than Sarah Lopez, yeah,
Hmm.
with the tagline of Kizomba, yeah. So unfortunately, we cannot go to these people and say you need to stop doing this, yeah. What can we do that's in our power? Are we going to try to like hate on this other person, or what are we going to do to like combat that? So I feel like I commend you for like doing these interviews, because I feel like it's putting out
Thank you.
more content on the internet that's going to help these people understand that what Kizomba is. Like, you can still feel beautiful, you can feel sensual, you can feel like a woman dancing Kizomba
Hmm.
and still feel beautiful and still dance to without making it sexualized, yeah. I feel like Kizomba, especially here in North America, like we have this issue of personal space. And so anytime anybody gets close to that personal space, we take sexuality 0 to 100, like in a quick second. Yeah. Um, like I did a podcast on this. I'm not sure if you saw the podcast, but just like on touch and how we perceive touch. Yeah.
Hmm.
If I touch another man on his, let's say I put my arm around his shoulder,
Hmm.
it does that mean I'm attracted to the man? If a woman puts her hand on another woman's knee, does that mean that she's interested in that woman, or she's curious, or she's confused, or something like that?
Hmm.
But touch is actually something that's very, very, very therapeutic that we need as human beings. I've also done a podcast on the 5 love languages, and one of the 5 love languages that we have is physical touch. So that means hugs, that means kisses, that means back rubs and things like that. Like, this is a therapeutic thing that is not sexualized. Yeah. No, like it's a very deep subject when we talk about touch. And another point I like to bring up about touch and it being therapeutic, I'm not sure if you've seen this before, but like there are people who volunteer who go to the hospital where they're premature babies and they just need to be
They
held.
hold them. Yes, I
They
heard
hold them
about it.
because
Yeah.
touch is a human need. Yeah. I know here in Western civilization, we tend to like have women half naked on our billboards and in our
Hmm.
magazines and in our movies and TV shows and stuff like that. Like, I just feel like in our society, yeah, this is a bigger thing that's like being shown in our Kizoma scene, but it's like a bigger societal issue what's going on. I don't like it when Kizoma is immediately sexualized. Even in urban kids, even if we perceive to dance like more sensual music, you can still be very respectful and professional in your demeanor. It's Does it answer your question? I don't know if that was. I went off on a lot of different tangents.
Yes. Yes, you basically answered it that, it's unfortunate. So
Yes, but what we can do to combat that is actually talk to people, do podcasts like this, be proactive about the things that we can control. If I'm going to get angry, like, and just yell at these people and say, "Oh, that's shit. This is bullshit. You don't know what you're talking about. You're a stupid person," or anything like that, like, maybe those people are just operating from the limited knowledge that they have, yeah? And they're doing something about it that's maybe not the best, but you can talk to that person with respect still.
So my last question is,
Yes.
Charles, what do you think it will take to end the war?
I guess it depends on what you define as a war. Let's just take a look at humanity, yeah? None of us chose our skin color. None of us chose when we were born. None of us chose who our parents were. None of us chose where in the world we were going to be born. But all of these things influence the people in Kizomba. Whether you were born in Angola with Angolan parents, Cape Verdean parents, Palop parents, whether you're born in Canada, I was born in Texas with a Nigerian father. I didn't choose to have a Nigerian father, yeah? A lot of people are dancing Kizomba all over the world, and nobody chooses when, where they were born. So why are we going to use this to divide us? Yeah? We all have something special to share. We all want to connect. We all want to dance, and we all want to be happy. Yeah? So it's like, why are we going to fight about these things? And why can't we just respect one another? Yeah? I'm going to listen to your story and I'm going to respect it. I'm going to share my story and respect it. One of the reasons I like Urban Kids more is because I get more of a nostalgic value out of Urban Kids music, because I grew up listening to Jill Scott. I grew up listening to Michael Jackson. I grew up listening to Lauryn Hill. So when I listen to JB's remix of Lauryn Hill's doo-wop, that sends me on like a whole nother happy, nostalgic. I remember growing up with my friends, birthday parties, dancing to this music. So I realized that I can put my ego aside and I can practice empathy and see an Angolan and let him listen to a Kizomba song that he listened to, that maybe his mom played for him or his father played for him, or maybe he danced with his grandmother 20, 30, 40 years ago, and he gets the same fucking happy, nostalgic feeling, and I respect that. So like, I just feel like there's a basic human respect that we can have for one another, and there's no reason for a war. Yes, we have differences, yes, but if you want to focus on the differences and be divisive, or I can focus on the similarities and I say, I see your happiness and I see my happiness, and both of them are just as beautiful. One is not better than the other. They're all beautiful, and it's just going to make the world a fucking better place. Yeah, because that's what dance does. Dance connects us. Dance unites us. There's no reason why we have to have dance, and that's adding negativity and drama into your life. And then we want to get into colonization. Like, it's really interesting for me as an African American dancing Kizomba, because like there's a lot of African Americans here in the U.S. who lost their connections to Africa. Yeah, we didn't choose to come here. Like, we are the ancestors of the slaves who also didn't choose to be born in Africa, but forced to come here. We're freed, and now we're here, and we're trying to learn more about our African culture. And now we have all of this animosity going on between the Africans and some African Americans or non-Africans. Yeah, like I feel like it's a very unfortunate situation. So I feel like if we can squash some of the beef between Africans and African Americans, and I get colonization was like a very, very, very unfortunate thing. Yeah, like when you take a look at like all the unfortunate things that happen in the world, like all the fucking tsunamis, the earthquakes, the fucking sex trafficking, slavery, the Holocaust, like why does shit like that happen? Like, that is beyond my human comprehension. I refuse to be bitter at other people who are non-African over colonization, because like we have to move forward. Yeah, like it's important to have the conversation. It's important to not be forgotten. I want to know more about my African culture. I've never been to Nigeria. My dad didn't speak the language with me. So like there's a disconnect, and I see that disconnect, and it's unfortunate, but I feel privileged that I'm able to dance Kizomba, and that kind of connects me to Africa somehow, you know? And every partner dance in the world has some African influence into it. Yeah, like if we take a look at Africans and Europeans together in Argentina, we have tango. Africans and Europeans in Puerto Rico, we have salsa. Africans and Europeans in the Dominican Republic, we have bachata. Africans and Europeans in Angola, we have kizomba. Africans and Europeans in North America, we have swing. So every partner dance has African influence into it. So if you're dancing partner dance somewhere, like there's a roots of Africa in there, yeah? But if you take a look at other African countries, like you said before, like Nigerian, like I've been to plenty of Nigerian parties, no partner dancing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the partner dance of Ethiopia? What's the partner dance of Tanzania? What's the partner dance of Sudan? What's the partner dance of Morocco, Egypt, Ghana?
Mm-hmm.
No partner dancing, yeah? So these Angola, I feel, is an exception in that regard because they are partner dancing a lot. They have traditional partner dances, but they are also a Portuguese colony for 400 years. So that's a lot of European influence. I'm not saying don't have conversations. I'm not saying don't research and respect the history, but there should not be any form of disrespect or animosity because we're all humans at the end of the day. So what's going to end the war? I feel lack of ego, respect, and humility.
Thank you so much, Charles. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.